Good evening. Please give Charles a big round of applause. He's he's been very sporty. He's here ahead of time, and generally he runs a big company, but he's very cool and he's very relaxed and part of it because he's Canadian. Uh, so genuinely give Charles a big round of applause. Give each one of yourself a big round of applause. Uh, and I must make a big announcement today that tonight we are not doing the HR awards. I just want to tell you that we're doing bravery awards. Because all of you are very brave to make it on an evening here, on a day when all our family members and well-wishers are stopping us from going to events, and rightly so. That's our concern, and safety is a good thing, but you're here, and I'm sure the evening will go well. We had a huge women's event tomorrow at the JW Marriott Aerocity. We had some fintech, but we called that off because we want to be cautious. For now we postponed it. We rescheduled it. We'll do it another day. And every day is a Women's Day if you're married, right? Garima, don't kill me for saying that. But Charles, we'll sit and talk. And Charles, I've promised someone that my card says chairman, but I'll make it chairperson so that the adjective is gender neutral. It's not very chauvinistic. So I hope you can, you're the chairman of Volvo in India, so if you can make it chairperson Volvo. It's a small way of being gender sensitive.
I think that makes a lot of sense. We can make that happen.
Thank you, Charles, for always being. How was your hockey game in Ladakh? You and Paul had too much fun there.
It was, unfortunately, I didn't feel well. I didn't get to make the trip.
Oh, you didn't go?
No. Unfortunately, no. But I'm still playing. So for those of you who don't know, I play ice hockey. I'm one of the few people in India that plays ice hockey, and
in Canada, it's like cricket.
Yeah.
Ice hockey is the cricket of Canada, yes. Metaphorically speaking.
So and I play here in the Gurgaon Mall actually. So
yeah,
I play
next door.
Yeah, next door, and so we play here once a week. But unfortunately, we had a game up in Ladakh. My team went, but I didn't get to go, and but they won the championship, so that was great. Fantastic.
Yeah. So we talk about HR. And we talk of people, and we talk of talent, and we talk of acquisition, we talk of retention. How much does social bonding and genuine activities that create bonding help? Like, playing a sport together.
Yeah.
Just having an evening without any agenda. Yeah. And I'm not advocating drinking or, I'm just saying genuinely activities where you talk to a colleague as a human being, as another player, and not necessarily as a boss.
I think it's extremely important. One of the things that I appreciate that I've never seen, even in other Volvo companies, that every morning when my team comes in, they greet each other. Every morning, every person comes up and spends a couple of seconds just saying, maybe today we didn't handshake, but otherwise, usually we have a handshake. And each person says hello to every other person in their individual office, which I think it starts off your day with that connection, right? And each day I learn a little bit about all of the team that I work with. Each day, I hear about their weekend or what they did, and it's not typically a business conversation. Typically it's a conversation about what's going on and who they are. And I think, we're much more likely to treat people the way they want to be treated if we know who they are and what drives them and what makes them happy and what sets them off.
What surprises me, I lead one organization actively, one my partner leads, but kind of I review things with him. I do the strategy, and something that we both created together, difficult to let go. But sometimes, let me be candid, I think I know my colleagues, but sometimes they surprise me. Sometimes on pleasant things in a pleasant way, and sometimes in a negative way.
Yeah.
So we actually don't know our colleagues really well. We may think we know them because really all of us are so involved in the business activity or the business output that we have all aligned with, that we don't get to know each other as a person, his or her priorities, what she wants, or what he wants, So we don't get to know the individual that well, especially bosses. And again, what happens is, like you were really up there, there are levels of uh, hierarchy in between. So for a boss to know people, I mean, do you have a boss's day out where, say, a young colleague spends a day with you, kind of shadows the CEO, understands what he or she does? Do you have a day like that in Volvo?
No, I don't have a day like that. We have some different ways to get that kind of understanding out there. I think one of the, you talk about getting to know people and that people surprise you. I can understand that. I think as a manager of many people, you wonder, how, I think people will reflect what they see in you. So how well do your people know you? How much are you willing to share of yourself? Right, I think that it starts with really being open and vulnerable and sharing your own person and your own personal things. We can't, if we're willing to do that, maybe we'll see that come back and less surprises will come. But I think in terms of I don't have a boss's day out or something like this, but I think that we have, one of the things that's been successful for me is I always have I never have an assistant, I have a management trainee.
Sure.
So I hire people directly out of one of the top universities, and that person then works with me as an assistant, but also sitting in all the management team meetings, understanding how we run the business, all the strategic meetings, offsites and things. So that person is always there. And I think then they can see, in general, how a business is run, and throughout their career. One, I think it's almost reverse mentorship as well, right?
Sure.
So I can be connected with how younger people are thinking and what they're interested in, and connect in that way, and they can see kind of some of the things that I've learned over the years and how to manage a large business. And I found that that relationship is good. I find that interaction is good, and that I'd encourage senior leaders to take on what I would call more a reverse mentor.
I love that term, and I actually, he's now 28, he studies in Singapore, he's doing a postgraduate program, and his brother, who's 22, started to work with me, but he started working with me at 19, and and I wrote a piece about him on reverse mentoring some 8-9 years back, what I learned from him. So I really get what you're saying, because the millennials have a new mindset, they understand technology better, they're more in touch with what's happening in the environment. So clearly, it is a useful process to have. Charles, today when you talk of human resources, it's not the same what it used to be 20 years back. You're Canadian, you work for a Swedish company, though it's really a global brand and a global business. In the 70s and early 80s, Volvo was the second largest foreign exchange earner after another Swedish brand. And I asked you this question in August at the Marketing White Book. Do you remember which was the Swedish brand in business which was bigger than Volvo in the late 70s and early 80s?
I don't remember. What was it?
4-letter word. So the 3-letter word is ABB. And I've given it to you. The 3-letter word was ABB, but it's not ABB. It's a 4-letter word.
ABBA?
That's right. ABBA, the band, was the single largest foreign earner for Sweden in the late 70s and early 80s, and Volvo is the second highest foreign exchange earner. Now, culturally, Sweden is very different. I've been to Göteborg, Göteborg, and I went to the opening of the Opera House. What a city! It's picture perfect. And the Europeans and the Swedes are particularly polite. I mean, Steven Edberg, Mats Wilander, these were the tennis players in the early 80s. They were really super polite. They were antithesis of John McEnroe,
Yes.
the bad boy, or Eli Nastase, right? So you have a Swedish company where the culture is super polite, Canadians, which are super polite. We Indians are more in your face, right? And we are culturally little hypocrites, unlike the US, where the CEOs would tell Donald Trump that we do not agree with your policy on, let's say, immigration, right? We don't support building a wall. Here, the CEOs are or senior managers or leaders are much more afraid to say what they believe in. So culturally, tell us, how does the leaders' cultural orientation impact the human resource function of the company? If you can give us some example, you worked in multiple countries,
Yeah.
multiple environments.
No, it's that's a fun question to get, I have to say. So I've for those of you that don't know me, I've worked in a number of different countries. Worked in the U.S. for many years. Worked in China for many years. In Sweden, in Japan, and now India. And I think
The only continent left is Africa.
I'm ready to go. I would love to go work in Africa. I think that would be very exciting. But I think the national culture plays a big role, right? Any of you happen to see about 2 months back, the King of Sweden was here? Anybody
Yes.
see the King of Sweden was here?
King Gustav.
So there's, I had the opportunity to meet him, and there were a number of different appearances he made and announcements he made. Does anybody remember what was the most famous thing he did in India? He carried his own bag. He flew commercial, and he carried his own bag, right? And this is, I think, in a nutshell, the Swedish culture.
Yeah. By the
Right.
way, he came to the opening of the Opera House.
Oh, the king did.
Yeah, this was in 2009 or 2008, I think.
This, I think, approach of not being hierarchical, of having everyone truly being seen as equal can only be, I think, started and demonstrated from the top, right? So if someone that has every right to be hierarchical is carrying his own bag and flying commercial, I think that says that's very much the ethos of Sweden, and very much the ethos of Volvo. And I've worked in when I worked in American companies, it's much more like an Indian company, right? The titles are important. Mentioned earlier. You have to. You didn't call me G. That makes me very upset. And,
I get very upset when somebody calls me Annurag G. I tell them I'm Annurag B.
Yeah.
That's a bad joke, but I am Annurag B.
But I think that these things, a lot of these things can work, and it's different ways to work.
So how does it impact the culture? How does it impact the HR practices? Give us a tangible example.
Hugely different. With a Swedish approach, for example, when I came here, my team was quite surprised that I spent my first month meeting individually with every single person in my organization. At least 30 minutes, sitting down with everyone, right? And this is a very Swedish approach, and this is from the jury was talking about this kind of approach earlier, about standing guard in front of the embassy and connecting with individuals. I think this is very much a Swedish way. I can't imagine American managers. I'm very surprised an Indian manager does this, but this is culturally something that is very significant. Oh, sorry, I dropped my phone there. Thank you.
It's still okay.
It's still okay? That's good. Thank you. But I think that this, after, I moved from Sweden to India. And, I think, and I really absorbed that kind of cultural and way of doing things. And I really wanted to test it out in a different place. And I have to say, my team, I think this is, India in general, are very willing to accept new ways of doing things and change very quickly, right? So if this is the way things were going to be done, it influenced the culture very quickly, right? And to this day, I have, I think, a very good relationship with individuals, because you take the time at the very beginning to get to know them, right? And I think, when you come into a new role, I think everyone, especially if you're coming in as the leader of the organization, people are nervous, right? And they're nervous, and you wonder, they don't know how you're going to run things. They don't know how you're going to treat them. If you think about this role, you have tremendous power,
Sure.
Basically, I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want to whoever I want.
No, I understand. What do you mean in
But-
a
but-
nice, sensitive way?
But you know, it's in those situations you can really show your true colors, right? I don't have to be nice to people. If you choose to be nice to people, if you choose to listen, if you choose to meet with people regardless of hierarchy, right? This I think is important. And one of the things that I gained from this experience was, you know, I think the things that people are most afraid of when you're coming into a new organization is all of us have the projects that we've been working on for years. We've been working on these projects for years, and they've been getting better and better and better and better. And I think the worry is that the new guy is going to come, the new head is going to come in and mess that up. And I think that's the worst thing you can do. These people usually have been working in the organization for years. They know what the problems are. You should ask them what those problems are and have that be your to-do list for the first 3 months. You know, if you come in and think you understand what the problems are, I think you're fooling yourself. So really, I think the key to coming in and, you know, whether it's regardless of country, coming in with an open mind and willing to listen and trust what people tell you, I think is a good practice regardless of where you do it.
Charles, you know, let me ask you a real question. Tell me one practice that you found funny in India, that the moment you got to know, you thought it was really funny, interesting, strange, whatever, unique, you want to put a negative word. And second question I want to ask is, I started in the morning saying, how many CHROs will go on to become CEOs? Tell me, in your journey of 20 plus years, how have you seen CHROs who've gone on to become CEOs, and what has enabled that? Because it would help some of the CHROs in this room.
I think, starting with the first, I was interested to find that every meeting I ever have starts with chai. I've never drank so much chai in my life.
In Russia,
I don't know if this is the case in all of your companies, but I drink a lot of chai. So I've grown to love it, so that's good.
You would prefer it started with champagne or vodka or wine? Is that what, or coffee?
I haven't tried that. I'm willing, but I'm willing to try. The champagne sounds particularly
Coffee
nice.
is good too.
That sounds good. You know, I think, and it's funny, I was sitting with my HR head today. She was nice enough to work with us and the jury to help help guide us. So she was, Arti was very, very helpful. And one of the things she was asking me, you know, is, you know, similar to this, you know, how, you know, leadership roles for heads of HR and such. And you know, what's interesting, I think, for all of us as we grow in our roles and start to manage more and more people, you know, I think we spend more and more time focused on HR and people, whether it's issues or opportunities, right? And you know, I would say I spend probably 50% of my time figuring out, do we have the right people in the right place doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Right? And how do you...
That's why Stephen Covey.
Do
the right thing for the right reason and at the right time.
And isn't you know, as you grow in the organization, have I seen this very much? No, I haven't seen it. But should I see it is another question, right? I mean, as we grow as leaders, you know, this is the skills of being able to understand people, to manage people, to motivate, you know, this is, you know, the critical skill, right? And what we spend more time doing. So, you know, if we aren't looking for leaders from the HR ranks, maybe we should be.
Sure. How do you think Indians take criticism? You came from Japan, which is again, you know, very male-dominated culture. It's very patriarchal. I've not worked in Japan, but I've visited Japan, and you know. So you came from Japan. You work in India. Tell me, how do Indians take criticism? Do they take it well? They send you a bottle of wine after that, or more packs of chai, or stop talking to you?
This is a great question as well. The best of anywhere I've ever worked. No one is close. taking it, the people I work with, they crave input. They will not be satisfied with positive input because I'm very much a 90% positive, 10%, improvement area type person, and they won't be happy with just the 90% positive things. They want to know these areas. They take them positively, and they improve. And this, I think, is vastly different than some of the other cultures that I've seen. I think perhaps not to call out any specific cultures, but Europe. People have this pride in their own ability, which is great. But even when you have pride in your own ability, you should be open to, if you can call it criticism, call it coaching, call it constructive feedback, right? And this is something that makes India great. I mean, you're a culture that is constantly judged. You're constantly tested. These are something that you're used to, right? And this to me is a breath of fresh air when I work with my Indian colleagues.
We have lots of CHROs that happen to be women leaders. They just happen to be women because you don't become a CHRO because you're male, female. It's an ability for most jobs, and it should be like that. But tell me, when you deal with female managers,
yes,
and I'm talking of senior managers,
yes,
top leadership team, is there a change in the mindset that you see in India and in the mindset that you saw abroad? What's good about that and what's not good? What could be improved?
So this is a very relevant question for me. So when I first joined in my team, we had 0 women in the leadership team. We had 2% women in the entire Volvo Cars team. And now we've gotten, we have 2 out of 6 are on the leadership team. We have 30% women now in the team over the course of 3 years. So this is, thank you. But you do this, I guess what I always say, I've never had to make any kind of, I've always hired the best person for the job, right? You need to have some focus on this, but always hire the best person for the job. But the reason that you do it, one, I think from a Swedish perspective, male-female is the key measurement, right? And that I think there's huge focus on gender equality in Sweden, and I could give you
give us a couple of examples.
Equal paternity leave. A game changer in Volvo and in Sweden is equal paternity leave. So I think all of us can understand the concern when women have a baby, they're out of the workforce for a year. Do they miss promotion opportunities? Do they miss any kinds of opportunities to be seen, to work? In Sweden, the men also take a year. So the woman takes a year, then the man takes a year. So both miss those opportunities or get those opportunities equally. It's an amazing game changer and very basic. So
beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's very important. But when
you go fishing, or you look after the kids.
No, they unfortunately they don't have the benefits of many Indian families to have help. It's all do it yourself. It's all do it yourself.
I even went to Denmark.
But I think the key thing when I think about getting more, especially gender diversity, I think about it, any of us have been to gone out and doing anything with just a bunch of guys doing things. Just doesn't sound like that's going to be a great thing. And also, if you think of just a bunch of ladies going out and doing something, doesn't also sound like a great thing. There is something about bringing us together that socially, I think, brings a very good mix to the group.
Sure.
And that is something that I think, I maybe can't say exactly what that thing is, but I think we all know it, and we all can feel it.
Thank you for sharing a very specific practice. And I think in some progressive organizations in India, there is a similar practice, if not exactly same. My last question before I bring the audience, and I said we have to do the bravery awards after this because just being at an event today is bravery. So I want to compliment the jury member, Mr. Harshvardhan, Mr. J. Iswaran, Mr. Mishra just went out. I'm sure he'll be back. if you had to make one prediction for the future of workplace, or two predictions, what would that be? 3 to 5 years from now.
Wow. A prediction for the future of the workplace.
Yeah, because the HR practices are shaped by what's happening in the larger environment. Like we work 24/7 with WhatsApp. You know, we're pretty much
Yeah, yeah.
working. We're connected. So
I'll make one. I think it's always very exciting to talk about technology and things, but I think as we progress and interact more and more using technology, I think we understand, and I've heard some of the comments of the previous speakers about the limitations of AI and such, and I think, whether it's WhatsApp or any kind of communications, we recognize the limits of that. And I think, when I think about my own team and working with them, to me, email is the lowest form of human communication, right? The laziest thing you can do is send an email and copy all of your bosses.
my senior colleagues are looking at me because I send
The
a lot of
laziest.
emails.
Then-
But I also spend a lot of face-to-face time.
Goes
So that's-
for me, it's email, then it's texting, then it's phones, and then it's face to face.
Yeah, so I am email and meeting. Email and
I am all about face to face, and we have in my own office. I don't have an office. I don't have a cabin. I have an open platform, and whenever anyone would send me an email or text me, if I can see them, I will go over and ask them why they are texting me. So my prediction is that more and more people will step away from technology rather than embrace it, and they'll understand the true value of human
I
face-to-face
believe the
rather
same.
than this. And I think that not many people are saying that right now.
Yeah, so I'll rephrase what you're saying. I believe in what you're saying. You're saying the more technology assimilation happens, the more is the value of touch and face-to-face and human interaction, right? I think I totally buy that, and I give this example on a birthday. The people that make an effort to come and meet you, or call you. I mean, Facebook wish is okay, that's also welcome.
Yeah.
WhatsApp is welcome, that's okay. But the ones, maybe with a little old fashioned, I'd like to go to a close friend's birthday, spend 10 minutes with him or her, and,
much
wish
richer
them,
experience.
it's a different experience. I mean, I have to hire a trainee, I want to meet the trainee. I want to recommend somebody for a job. I recommended someone in the front row, I won't take names. I'm meeting that person on Saturday to prepare him or her for the job, right? So I'm very face to face. I insist that, if I have something with Tanvi, come and meet me, talk to me face to face, because you can see body language. And WhatsApp is very easy it's very trigger happy. If the world had to become a better place, the WhatsApp management should just make WhatsApp pay. If you just made WhatsApp pay, you'd pay 1 rupee, Indian rupee, which is how many cents? I don't know, right? We'd be a better place because there's so much of not serious content, inflammatory content.
Yeah.
So it's very trigger happy. When you talk to someone, you can see the body language. And words have tremendous power. What you say, how you say, stays in a person's mind, If
Absolutely.
you compliment the person, or if you say, the toxicity of words is very underestimated. We only think of, physical. But what you say with your words has equal impact as a physical bruise,
Exactly.
It has a use. So how you say something, even if it's a difficult thing to be said, if you sit across a person, if you're humane, you say it, you choose your words, it can actually turn into a blessing rather than something that is a punishment.
It's very difficult, I think, when you're looking at emails or WhatsApp to understand intentions. What is the person intending when they communicate to this? And I think when that that emotion comes, and when they can see your body language, when you can hear your tone of voice, that an emoji is just never going to get that done.
Sure. Yeah, these are very quick fix, they're very. So we have the benefit having Mr. Charles from Face to Face. So we can take 2 questions, tell us who you are, and we can get the question to be answered. Yes, sir, we get a mic here. Short question, Twitter like.
Thank you, Mr. Frump. My name is
Not Mr. Trump, Mr. Frump.
Frump, I said, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay. He'd be very upset. Okay.
No, I'm aware. I had raised a point with you that what is the Volvo's mission to manufacture cars for specially abled in our country?
EVs, electric vehicles.
No, the cars driven by specially abled people.
Cars driven by specially able.
I sent a message to you also this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No, I think that this is certainly an underserved audience, right? And I think that we have, this is, if I look at our company, we in many ways want to be a very caring and people-centric company, but I think we have gaps, and I think this is clearly a gap for us. We, in order to tailor to the needs of the specially abled, we have to have a special department in Sweden, have the cars made specifically for their needs at additional cost. And that's not a fantastic way forward. And I think if you know, if companies can really focus on those needs and get it right, there's a very good market for that. And it's you know, I'll be very open in saying maybe we don't do such a great job.
Okay, one more question if there's anybody who has a question. Ms. Dasan.
So,
What's your name? What do you do, sir?
I'm Vikas. I work for HCL Technologies. So, Charles, I have a question. Out of all the solutions which you saw as a jury chair, which is your personal favorite and why?
Oh, of the solutions, I guess you're talking in terms of systems. You know, I think if I can remember the company, we probably awarded them. There was, and what had a big impact on us, actually on our jury chair was, or our jury was, there was a company that had their own internal Facebook. And it wasn't Facebook, it was, I can't remember. Yes, it was Tech Mahindra, yes.
So
And
Facebook has a tool for.
And I don't think it was Facebook, but it was you know, a social media, and it was so embedded in their culture and the way that they used it that you know they wanted to take a picture of the jury as we were deliberating, and we're like, oh, that's, you know, I immediately said, oh, that's a great idea. Why don't we take a picture of the jury and we can get it out there? But rightly so, we need to think about, is it always right to share things immediately? And what message does it say? If the Tech Mahindra has a picture of the jury, what does that say about, you know, is the jury already making decisions? Why do they have this? Are they being treated specially? So actually, I was very impressed that one of our jury members actually said, no, not now. We will make sure that you have the appropriate time to curate the social media, which had a big impact on me. But that being said, even to ask, I thought was very impressive.
Good. Any more questions, Ms. Dasan? Kavita is the HR head of ABP News Network, so I've known her.
Hi,
for-
Charles. Thank you.
Hello.
Anurag for introducing. Just wanted to say that, you know, it's lovely to hear somebody voice out, especially the connect and the level of communication that you mentioned, you know, email being the lowest and so on. It's really heartening to hear from an HR perspective, and congratulations, all the best for what you're doing. My question is only about saying that it's very rare to hear, and I wish there were more and more people talking about it, you know.
That's a fantastic question. Thank you.
Thank you.
And a great way to wrap up, I think, Annurag. Is that?
Yeah, she's complimenting you. Right? She's complimenting. Ms. Pant, do you want to ask a question? Garima is the HR head for Sony television, the Sony network in India. So, because they're from media, I tend to, though I only met her for the first time today. Anything you want to comment, ask?
I don't really have a question, but extremely impressed with the Swedish way of working and the way you've kind of translated it in India with Volvo. So, like, my compliments to you.
Yeah.
Very nice of you to say that. And I think you know, this is a way of breaking down hierarchy is something that we as a culture and a company feel very strongly about. I think that was what was surprising to many of my Indian colleagues is how well it translated to India, right? And that was enlightening and exciting to see.
Thank you.
So, Sweden, we have right now Ikigai, we have Wabi Sabi, we have the Mario Kondo books, and the European culture and the Swedish culture is, it's about being minimalist. In some way, I don't know if
Japanese
it's
as well,
Japanese also very minimalist, and I think in the Vedas, I'm not an expert, but I have friends who kind of fill me in, and I know a little bit, I don't know enough. But the Vedas are also about being minimalist in some way. So I think there is a confluence, convergence of ideas from the ancient wisdom and what's happening in the world, especially in the European world. And if we had to say we take the best of the West and the best of the East, I think we have Charles Frump. So give a big round of
Very
applause
nice of you to say. Thank you.
Charles there. And being easy in a good way, not he's meticulous and he's mindful of the role he's playing, but he is on a human level very, very pleasant to deal with. I don't intend to patronize. Dr. Sanyal, he was my professor at MDI. Now he's the director of the Great Lakes Institute. Would you like to ask Sir a question? He didn't give me good grades, but that's okay, sir. No problem now.
I can tell you it was fantastic hearing you. I think the practices which you said, open culture, it works very well with my industry. Because I belong to an industry where all academicians are there. They're individually very great. And if you leave them alone, if you don't have a face-to-face with them, they like to be alone also, But organization cannot...
As long as their Wi-Fi is working.
Yeah. So,
There is
but
only that
the
caveat.
challenge lies how you connect with them, because they are the people who can make the organization go any level actually, so high level. So I believe in you, and I believe that practice of meeting face to face is very critical. And I liked everything what you said today. It was really, I'll again appreciate Annurag to bring the right person for this talk. It was fantastic, I will tell you.
Thank you. Sir, I
High
hope
praise
if I
indeed.
reappeared in exam, you give me good CGPA. He's got 2 grown-up kids his son is 30, daughter is 27. They're doing very well in life. They're about to do PhDs and so on and so forth. So Dr. Sanyal, I've known him for 20 plus years, and it's been a pleasure to engage with him. Please give Mr. Charles Frump a big round of applause for being here in the evening, for being our jury chair, and most importantly, making a change by placing his ideas about what the future of workplaces and what the HR leaders need to do and what leaders need to do. Please give him a bigger round of applause, please.